How's it going, everyone? It's all before weather strong top. Today is June 16th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on, of course, Invest 92L, which will likely become Tropical Storm Claudette, and we'll also take a look at the Atlantic as a whole. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current satellite look, the current infrared satellite imagery, and you see that we do have a lot of convection going on throughout the Gulf of Mexico, and this extends into the Atlantic as well. We, of course, have the remnants of Tropical Storm Bill, which was just to the east of North Carolina and moved pretty much straight to the northeastward, along with this dip in the jet stream and along with this trough moving through. And now it has evolved into more of an extratropical cyclone, and it's moving well out to sea, so it won't be much of a worry anymore. At least, not that it was, but it won't really be a worry in the future. But the more concerning thing we need to take a look at is, of course, the convection that's going on right around the Gulf of Mexico, and you see right along the Yucatan Peninsula we do see just a lot of convection going on. This even extends to the eastern Pacific as well, but we do see the majority of the thunderstorm activity occurring right around Central America, more specifically right around the Yucatan Peninsula at this point. And this is Invest 92L, and it will eventually move northward. This convection will eventually move northward, and it'll have a chance, and a pretty good chance of that at that, of developing into a tropical depression or at least a tropical storm. I'm taking a look at the current chances of formation based off what the National Hurricane Center is saying. We have a medium 60% chance of formation over the next 48 hours. So more likely than not, within the next 48 hours, we will see some sort of tropical depression or tropical storm form in the Gulf of Mexico. However, if we go beyond 48 hours within and take the chance within the next 5 days, it drastically increases to a 90% chance of development, which is pretty much guaranteed at this point, almost guaranteed, that we're going to see some sort of tropical depression or tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico, which is unfortunate because we were hoping that the chances would diminish, but now it seems very likely we will see Tropical Depression 3 or at least Tropical Storm Claudette in the Gulf of Mexico. So this is something we need to pay close attention to in the coming days, especially a lot of the Gulf Coast, because it seems like you guys are going to be a direct target with this next tropical disturbance. Taking a look, zooming into where Invest 92L is, you see that it's very disorganized. There isn't really any convection going on over water, pretty much which pretty much kills the chances of any development, since of course we need that convection to occur over water, because there's no way that a tropical storm could form directly over land, as it pretty much needs the water right around the center of circulation to really develop, to really get its rotation going, and to have just enough convection to support stronger winds and to support tropical cyclone development overall. But we're seeing all that convection over land at this point. We're seeing just very strong upper level winds coming from the north that's pushing a lot of this thunderstorm activity further south, and even the lower level winds from a ridge that's currently located in the United States is bringing a lot of this thunderstorm activity down, and it's suppressing it from moving northward. However, that will change in the future, as I'll show you guys right now in the GFS model. So actually, let me go to the precipitation or the radar forecast, I should say, for the GFS model. You see that we do have a big lower level ridge that's located in the United States, and it's sort of suppressing the storm from moving northward, since it's pretty much blocking an area where the storm can move northward. There's a decent amount of northerly winds coming from the southeast at this point, and that's also suppressing this low pressure system from moving northward. However, as this ridge continues to move further eastward, we're going to see those winds begin to shift more northward, not only in the lower levels but the upper levels of the atmosphere, and eventually the storm will make its trek on northward, which is concerning for the United States because you guys are directly within its track if this, well, it will, as this storm will eventually move northward. So, moving forward with the track, you see that we begin to see a center of circulation right around, I'd say, Thursday, where we do see, as you can see based off the contour lines, we're starting to see an area where that pressure is lowering right around the center of circulation, and we're seeing thunderstorm activity just outside of that, and you see that um, eventually the storm strengthens to a point where the GFS now identifies a pretty decently sized low pressure system just off the coast of Texas at 1,006 millibars, and it makes landfall somewhere between the border of Texas and Louisiana. So the trend has been shifting a little bit further to the west. Now, in terms of the chance that this actually develops into a strong tropical storm, or at least makes landfall as a tropical storm, we need to take a look at several factors. So the first factor is, of course, sea surface temperatures, and like I've been saying for a dozen times pretty much, but I like to remind new viewers in case they're wondering, the sea surface temperatures are more than sufficient enough for tropical cyclone development. As you can see, we have areas where it is above 29 degrees Celsius, and we do, of course, have areas that are just above 20. Most of the Gulf of Mexico is above 27 degrees Celsius, so it is above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's enough for tropical cyclone development. So this will certainly support convection, but it's not only sea surface temperatures we need to take a look at, it's also the amount of wind shear there will be in the Gulf of Mexico as this moves up northward. And at this point, it still remains uncertain because while the computer models are agreeing that there's going to be at least some sort of wind shear, the $1 million question remains is how much wind shear, how strong will the upper level winds be? If we were to take a look at the 200 millibar wind forecast, you see that as of right now, there's quite a bit of wind shear swallowing up the Gulf at this point. We do have strong northwesterly winds coming from Mexico at this point, from this upper level high that's located in this area, and we of course do have a pretty big trough moving through the United States at this point. So we're seeing strong westerly winds, upper level winds in the northern Gulf of Mexico. However, like I said, as we move forward, the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere will begin to shift more from a southerly direction, and since the upper level winds and the lower level winds will coincide and pretty much move in the same direction, which is from the south, that means that the wind shear will be relatively light in this region to support at least some sort of tropical cyclone development, and that's current forecast based off what the computer models are saying. However, it still remains how much wind shear there will be headed further northward, because we do need to keep track of the troughs that move through the United States, and we're also going to keep track of this upper level ridge that's going to be located towards Texas, and we of course need to take a look at this upper level trough that's going to be just to the west of the storm as this moves northward. So the wind shear will be a big determinant on how strong this will be. If there's strong wind shear, then I wouldn't be surprised if this does maybe weaken just before it makes landfall to less than tropical storm status. However, if the wind shear is just light enough, I'd expect a tropical storm will make landfall somewhere in Louisiana and Texas. However, regardless if this develops into a tropical storm or tropical depression or not, this still should be a concern for you guys along the Gulf Coast, especially for Texas and Louisiana, because there's still it's up now. There's a pretty high chance we're going to see heavy rainfall associated with this disturbance, whether this develops into a tropical storm or not. So you guys need to stay very close attention to this low pressure system over the coming days, and it isn't that far from impacting you guys. You see that the GFS model is forecasting this to be right at your doorstep or make landfall as early as Saturday. It is now Wednesday, so you guys don't have that much time, so you need to be pay close attention to this. And the European model also is agreeing on the timing of this. You see that by Saturday, the system is pretty much right at Texas and Louisiana's doorstep. So you guys need to pay close attention to this over the coming days. Another factor that'll play a role in determining how strong this will be is the dry air that will be located in the Gulf of Mexico, because that's another thing that's going to limit this storm from really rapidly intensifying into maybe a hurricane. It's going to be the combination of decently moderately sized wind shear and dry air, because as you see, while there's a lot of moisture right now throughout the Yucatan Peninsula, you see just to the northwest of that, the dry air is over the Gulf, and as it moves northward, we begin to see another trough move through the United States, bringing a lot more dry and stable air to the region. And as it moves northward, the storm is going to sort of have to fend off a lot of this more stable and dry air as it moves northward, and it's really going to be difficult to determine how much dry air the storm will absorb. If it absorbs a lot more dry air, then of course there is that possibility that this weakens before landfall to below tropical storm or tropical depression status. However, if the dry air is less than initially anticipated, then the tropical storm should be forecasted in Louisiana and Texas. So that's another thing we need to pay close attention to, how much dry air there will be, and how much and how strong the upper level winds will be. In terms of the forecast right now, it seems like both of the computer models, the main computer models, the GFS and the European model, are agreeing that we're going to see a tropical storm make landfall in Louisiana and Texas. However, it's still certainly subject to change, to keep that in mind, but the most likely scenario at this point is that we do see some sort of tropical storm make landfall between the borders of Louisiana and Texas. Taking a look at what the computer models are forecasting, you see that now a lot of the European ensemble members are taking a landfall right between Texas and Louisiana. You see that the GEFS model is a little bit further eastward to it, but the European model is a more reliable one, and it's taking the track further westward. And you might be asking what will determine the track, and part of the thing that will determine the track is the strength of the storm, because if the storm is stronger, then we're more likely to see this storm move further eastward, because the upper level winds associated with the trough moving through the United States will have more an effect on the storm, because the cloud tops will be higher in a stronger storm, and that would mean that the upper level winds in the higher levels of the atmosphere will take more control of the track of the storm. However, if it's weaker, then the cloud tops won't be as high for those upper level winds to have a huge effect on the track of the storm. And right now, the trend seems to be leaning towards a more westward track, which could be good news, because that might mean that the computer models are forecasting a weaker storm. However, that does pose more of a threat towards Texas and Louisiana than we initially anticipated. So you guys in Texas now need to pay close attention to this, and right around Houston, because there could be another heavy rain threat associated with this, and whether this develops into a tropical storm or not. So you guys need to be prepared for potential flooding in these areas, especially if you're to the east of the center of circulation, because the eastern portion will be protected by a lot of dry air that's towards the west. So we need to pay close attention to that all throughout Texas and Louisiana. In terms of the amount of precipitation you should experience, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys get the better picture. In terms of how much rain you should expect by this storm, moving forward with the forecast, you see that rain extends very far up north, even to Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana is also getting affected, where we do see areas almost towards 7 inches of rain forecasted, which is just a ton of rain, and it's certainly more than possible for flooding to occur with 7 inches of rain, more than doable. for it to occur. So you guys need to pay close attention to this through Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, as the most likely scenario at this point is that tropical storm does make landfall. But again, we need to take a look at how much wind shear and dry air will be in the region to determine your exact impacts. And in terms of my current forecast track and my intensity forecast, keep in mind these are my thoughts alone. This is my speculation. If you want to seek official info, go to the National Hurricane Center. This is just my speculation, and you see that I'm forecasting this by Thursday to maybe develop into tropical depression status. It won't develop very rapidly over the next 2 days, and you see about that by Friday. I do expect it to reach 45 miles per hour, and I do expect it to reach peak intensity Saturday night, right before it makes landfall, since it has a lot more time over water to develop. And I do expect it, of course, to weaken as it goes over land on Sunday. And right now, the current forecast track is taking a break between Houston and the middle southern shore of Louisiana. So you guys need to pay close attention to this. It is subject to change. Obviously, there's still a lot of days to iron it out. But at this point, this is what I'm forecasting. I'm forecasting a tropical storm to make landfall on the Gulf Coast. So pay close attention to this if you're in Louisiana and Texas especially. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. I hope you guys have a good day.